To lead a country in crisis is to walk barefoot through fire, with the cries of the people echoing behind you and the crosshairs of the world fixed ahead. For Ibrahim Traoré, this wasn't theory, it was daily reality. By mid-2023, Burkina Faso was a nation under siege. Entire regions had slipped into lawlessness. Jihadist factions, emboldened by the chaos, laid ambushes on roads, attacked convoys, and razed entire villages. Humanitarian aid couldn't reach those in need. Teachers abandoned classrooms. Hospitals closed. And amidst it all, hope flickered like a dying candle. But Traoré refused to let the flame die. Unlike other heads of state who governed from protected palaces, Traoré made it a point to be present on the front lines. Photos and videos began circulating, him in military gear, addressing tired soldiers, eating from communal bowls, sleeping on floors. He wasn't posturing. He was living the same reality as those he led. In one viral moment, he stood before a ragged unit of volunteers and said, "I will not ask you to fight if I will not fight. I will not ask you to die if I am not ready to die with you." The words sent a jolt through the nation. In a continent where so many leaders distanced themselves from the people's suffering, here was one who seemed to bleed alongside them. But inspiration alone wasn't enough. Traoré accelerated the recruitment of civilian defense units. The Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDPs, multiplied across regions. Armed with basic training and often outdated weapons, they became the first line of defense in villages once abandoned to terror. Critics called it reckless, arming civilians and empowering local militias. But to many Burkinab, it was liberation. For the first time in years, villagers in the north and east felt they could fight back. Traoré also increased defense spending. He diverted funds from bureaucratic excess toward ammunition, training, and equipment. He welcomed military support not from France, but from other non-Western allies, reportedly Russia, Turkey, and Iran. Suddenly, new drones appeared over battle zones. Sophisticated intelligence operations were underway, and the death toll among insurgents began to rise. The tide was slowly turning. But as his profile rose, so did the threats. According to local reports and leaks from intelligence circles, at least 3 assassination attempts were thwarted in the months following his rise. Some blamed disgruntled elites. Others pointed to foreign operatives. Still others claimed infiltrators from jihadist groups. Traoré knew he was a marked man. Yet he remained visible. Refused exile. Refused to hide. He was seen driving through Ouagadougou without an armored convoy. Stopping to greet merchants. Visiting wounded soldiers without press crews. To his supporters, it was bravery. To his detractors, it was foolishness. But to him, it was duty. "If I disappear into luxury and protection," he once said, "how can I ask a mother to let her son die for this country?" Despite his courage, the weight of leadership wore heavy. Burkina Faso's economy, already fragile, began to buckle further under the strain of war. Food prices soared. Mining slowed. International aid declined after the break with France. And inflation gnawed at the already poor. Furthermore, governing in crisis left little room for long-term reforms. Schools went neglected. Health systems strained. Civil society grew restless. In some corners, whispers of authoritarianism emerged. Critics noted his clampdowns on media, restrictions on protest, and the arrest of those accused of sabotage, sometimes without trial. Supporters said it was wartime necessity. Detractors warned of a creeping dictatorship. But perhaps the most painful sacrifices were personal. Traoré became increasingly isolated. For security, his movements were tightly controlled. He often slept in undisclosed locations, surrounded by a small, trusted unit. He rarely saw his family. He carried the burden of a nation alone, and the cost was written across his face, more gaunt, more weary, more haunted with each public appearance. And still, he did not stop. As his country fought for its survival, something strange was happening abroad. In Senegal, graffiti appeared calling for a leader like Traoré. In Niger, protesters held his portrait while demanding the removal of foreign forces. In Mali, youth groups adopted his speeches as manifestos. He was becoming a myth in real time, not just a leader of Burkina Faso, but a beacon of African resistance. A spiritual successor to Thomas Sankara. A young lion roaring against imperialism. A face for the frustrated millions who had never known freedom. But with myth came danger. Myths are powerful, but they are fragile. And when reality fails to meet expectation, they can shatter violently. Traoré knew this better than anyone, which is why he kept repeating one message: do not worship me. Join me. This is not about a man. This is about a people. The edge of survival. As 2024 approached, the war raged on. Some areas were recaptured. Others fell. It was a tug-of-war not just of land, but of morale. But even as chaos endured, a strange new rhythm took hold. Communities began rebuilding. Schools reopened in safer zones. Volunteers drilled in the mornings. Farmers returned to their fields, rifles slung over shoulders. Faith was growing, not in miracles, but in resilience. Burkina Faso was bleeding, yes, but it was also breathing. And for the first time in years, its heartbeat no longer sounded like surrender, because someone had chosen to fight, not just with weapons, but with vision. And in that vision, the people saw themselves not as victims but as warriors.